Hey folks, this is Billy DKY, the truth seeker that simplifies and demystifies. Today we're going to be talking about faith. So what I'm going to do is read through this article that I've written, and basically what I'm going to do is, as I'm reading it, if I find anything that I want to stop and talk about and discuss more, that's what I'll do. Okay, so let's start with the first paragraph. Faith is perceiving that all will be well with little or no interference by you. Faith is developed by perceiving and is followed by believing. Notice what I said. Perceive first. You're seeing with your own eyes. You're seeing it work out with your own eyes. And then you start projecting it. You say, you know what? I bet it works that way everywhere if I just let it be. And then you start looking again, and that cycle of perceiving and believing just continues on. Next sentence. Faith is a spiritual revelation that frees your mind from worrying and busy work. So notice what happens. When your faith truly does grow, your worrying and busy work in this life will slow down. You'll quit worrying as much. You'll quit feeling like you need to be doing something to make things happen. You'll realize God's doing most of the work and it ain't you. Next sentence. In short, faith is a lack of ego. When you take the ego out of all your decisions, all your actions, things naturally work out right. And you'll see that it doesn't require much on your behalf to make things work out. Next paragraph. Blind faith is believing without perceiving. Notice the cycle I said a while ago. Perceiving, then believing, perceiving. That cycle just continues to go, and your worrying keeps getting less and less, and your busy work keeps getting less and less. Well, blind faith is sort of the opposite of that. It's just, I think it's going to work out. I don't have to think about it. Why did that happen? I don't care why that happened. I'm just going to believe it because I want to believe it. You know, I mean, maybe it'll work out for you for a while, but really it's not necessarily going to end your worrying. It's not going to necessarily end your busy work. So it's really blind faith. Here in the next sentence, blind faith is a mental concept, not a spiritual freedom. So it's not really freeing you. You may believe it. It may be a mental concept, but typically blind faith is nothing more than laziness or ignorance. In short, blind faith is ego. I just believe it because I was told it. Well, maybe it's wrong. I mean, maybe faith's the wrong thing. You know, check it out and figure it out. Again, the whole point of these videos and these articles that I put out is to free your mind. It's not to be a mental argument, you know what I'm saying, or an intellectual argument. It's just, I have to convey knowledge to you some way. You know, I don't meet you on a day-to-day basis. Okay, next paragraph. People who have faith aren't easily shaken by circumstances. Why is it? Because they sort of know it's going to work out. Plus, if you have faith, you're not self-centered. So even if you get killed in the process, you're like, well, you know, this world ain't about me. It's not an ego thing, you know. Typically, that ain't what's going to happen, but I'm just saying, in general, you're not worried about things. They know it will work out even if it isn't in their best interest, which I just said. People who have blind faith are easily shaken by circumstances and are endlessly busy, worrying, and untrusting. So again, when you're blind faith, I mean, you're just going to be worrying all the time. You're going to be entrusting to people, and you're going to be worrying and busy work. Now, you may have somebody that has blind faith who doesn't worry, but that's typically just because, you know, they're probably the ones causing the problem. They're just hard-headed. You know, hard-headed is not the same thing as, faith. Okay, next paragraph. Man's problem is that he doesn't know his role. Do your job and let God do his. You know, we're always wanting to do God's work. Well, it's not your job to do God's work. It's your job to do your work and let God do his. So it's like what I say when you're raising a garden. It's not your job to grow the tomato plant that you planted. It's your job to make sure it has good soil. It's your job to make sure you put it in the sunlight. It's your job to make sure that it gets water. And really the rest of it is up to God. And maybe even some of those things that I mentioned you should leave to God. So anyway. Okay. When you know your role, you know God's power and use it fully. When you know how to stay out of God's way, that's really the big secret here, is to stay out of God's way. Let God do his work. God works slowly. Man wants it done fast, so he's always interfering with what God wants done. And it takes forever and a day to get it done. Okay. When you know your role, your power is... When you don't know your role, your power is limited to you. If I'm always interfering with everything, then I don't get to use any of God's power. Like if I try to make a tomato plant grow, what's going to happen? It ain't going to grow. I'm going to try to stretch it. Can you imagine seeing me trying to stretch it to make it grow? You just destroy it. So it's ignorance. Don't interfere in things as much. You know what I mean? Now there is times that you do need to interfere, but it's typically not that much. Okay, next paragraph. When little is done and all is well, your faith grows. As I've made progress on this spiritual path, I've been doing less and less, and I've noticed things work out even better. So I mean, it's like, I'm like, yeah, I have faith that, you know, things are going to work out. I've seen plants grow. I'm like, wow, I ain't making those grow, and they're growing on their own. So, you know, you start having a lot of faith. That isn't what is taught in America. Is no, we're taught that you need to force your will on everything. If you ain't working hard, you ain't getting nothing done. Well, that's not necessarily true. It's not about working harder. It's about working wiser or smarter. Okay, in America, it's about forcing your will, not harmonizing with nature or God's will. Folks, you got to harmonize with nature and God. It ain't about force. And again, on the last video when I talked about force is nothing but ego. It's about working smarter, conserving your energy, using your energy wisely. And force is a lack of faith and perception. Do you want the illusion of power, or do you want real power? When you have real power, your power is not limited to you. When you have false power, like big muscles and stuff, that power is limited to you. When you have real power, it's limited. It's not limited to you. You get the full advantage of God's power. Does that mean that bad things can happen to you? No. Does that mean you can't get your ass whipped? No, it doesn't mean that. But it means you have the odds of that happening are a lot less likely. And if you looked at any of the master martial artists, they usually don't look like badasses, but they are badasses because they're using a power you don't quite understand. It's not based on force. It's not based on the appearance of power. Next paragraph. If you want to develop faith, grow a garden. I tell you what, it's amazing when you grow something and watching it grow. You're like, how is it? And really, I ask the question, how is it growing? And I'm not saying get caught up and say, well, the cells grow. No, I'm saying just ponder it. Just take all the scientific knowledge and just watch it grow. Free think it. Try to understand it from your first, like you're the first person to ever see it growing. Like, how in the hell is that really growing? It's amazing. And notice how if you really do a good gardener, or not even necessarily a garden, but just one plant, just one little bitty plant, and just watch it grow. It's such a boost to your faith that things will work out with little interaction by you. Okay. Like I say, God's doing most work. Your job basically is to get out of the way. Next paragraph. Have you noticed it's hard to let people down who have faith in you, and easy to let people down who don't have faith in you? People will try to meet your expectations if they are reasonable. When you have faith in others, you get to use their power. Are you starting to see the power of faith? When you have faith in other people, you get to use their power fully. You get to use their complete capacity. When you don't have faith in people, like, yeah, screw him, man, I ain't helping him. He don't have no faith in me, don't like me, don't trust me. And it's funny, I come to this revelation when I was at the gym. This personal trainer had no faith in her people she was training, and I could tell. I was like, you know what? They're not going to live up to expectations. They're going to live to your expectations, and they're going to fail you. So I realized, you know, if she wasn't so forceful with them, and she really had faith in them, she would get so much more out of them. And that's not just in that situation, but every situation in life. Have faith in the people you work with. Have faith in the people around you, and you'll be amazed at the more results you get instead of forcing your will again. You know, boss forcing his will on you. That's ignorant stuff. Get away from it. Okay. In short, faith is power. The lack of faith is weakness. The more you give up your egotistical, pleasure-seeking ways, the more faith you'll have. It is really unbelievable, the power of faith. I mean, we've all heard stories of people being captive and having faith, and it's unbelievable, really. I mean, it's not unfathomable, but it is sometimes hard to believe from an egotistical standpoint. Anyway, folks, if you wouldn't mind rating the video, and take care, and may you have faith.